I always love your posts. You go very deep. Are you getting any love on Instagram? Do you get ran off? Are you losing your accounts? What are we doing?
Well, I've been censored multiple times. I come out with some topics and then they come out with the fact check. Now they just put a little context. Actually, that's what they changed. They put a little context on the bottom that says this isn't true. So I
This
did a
is
thing
it.
about the radio wave sickness and that whole thing of 2020, people coming down with radio wave sickness, and they put a little context on there. I also just did one on the flooding in Kentucky with the weather situation going on, and they said that that was not true as well, per the usual. But yeah, YouTube just today, which as we just talked, like we're talking right now, YouTube ripped down my video about the peanut allergies and how the peanut allergies are caused by vaccines. I said the word
One,
introduced.
dude, my girlfriend has a peanut allergy. She says it's probably she after she got vaccinated when she was a kid.
Yep. This is a big one. So there's a great book for people to look into because I always like to cite books so people can read and research and everything else. But it's called The Peanut Allergy Epidemic. And it goes into talking about how they were putting adjuvant 65 in the vaccines, which adjuvant 65 is refined peanut oil. And they were putting it in the vaccines. And as they would give each person a vaccine, they would start to develop a peanut allergy. And it's interesting because after World War II and that reset, which we could always talk about, but after that reset that happened, people started growing peanuts. Peanuts were the staple crop. People were eating organic peanuts. They were a superfood. They'd hold over. If you were hungry, they'd hold you over. You could turn them into fuel. You could use peanut oil in a diesel car. So that was a big thing. But they started putting that peanut oil into the people, and then people started to become allergic. And in the book, The Peanut Allergy Epidemic, they talk about who owns the EpiPen. The same people, Pfizer and Merck, who put the peanut oil in the vaccines,
Oh my
own
God.
the EpiPen. Yeah. So $80 per insurance. I don't know what they charge, but $80 per insurance. They just nick it off. They actually lobbied for a bill to get the EpiPen in every school. They were the ones who started all the stuff where, like, we need to get peanuts out of school. Kids shouldn't be eating peanuts. If there's anything peanuts, we should stay away from them. And that's because peanuts are a superfood. They're high in copper, they're high in zinc, and they're also beneficial for the brain. But the more you go down the allergies of peanuts, latex, shellfish, ragweed, pollen, anything, penicillin, which is a big one, any of those, the more you see it's vaccine induced. And it's interesting because this book was talking about how people are allergic to penicillin. And this is probably the most mind-blowing one. So they inject you as a kid with penicillin so that you are allergic to mold. If you eat, for example, a moldy berry, it will detox the heavy metals from your body. But if you've been vaccinated now with penicillin, you're now allergic to mold and you can't eat the counter to pulling the heavy metals out of the body. So it's
So
pretty
this
nuts.
this gets into the question that is always going to cause a rift between the conspiracy people and the normies. And that is this purposeful? Are they doing this on purpose? Is everything that they're doing, is there another shoe that drops, two more steps down? That people can't come to grips with this. They can't come to grips with everything that we see going on that we're highlighting has been done on purpose in order to cause another effect, which then they have the answer to that as well.
So this is a big one, and let's just go back in time because we could go through a couple events where it's deliberate, just to pick those. You have 1976 swine flu. You have a fast-tracked, we know that word, fast-track vaccine, which gets rolled out and put into 40 million people's arms. They come down and they call it GBS after people are poisoned from that, and that was the government after the swine flu. An alleged animal had the swine flu, and it allegedly jumped to one person. So they rolled out a vaccine and they injected 40 million people. That was number one. Next, you go to the Tuskegee experiment where they were injecting people with a syphilis vaccine.
Yep.
And it's interesting because in the 1870s, they were injecting people with syphilis vaccines and they found out they got syphilis. So you did the same thing that you did in 1876. You do the same thing in the 1950s to people again. And it's so intense, so people are aware of this, that the CDC was originally called the US Department of Health. But after the Tuskegee experiment and they injected all of those people with the syphilis vaccine, they had to change their name because they had to cover up their tracks from calling them the US Department of Health. Now they're called the CDC. Then we go back, you go into polio, they're spraying DDT all over the place, and then they inject people with a vaccine. You go back to the 1919 Kansas flu, because that's where it started. They were injecting a Rockefeller meningitis vaccine at that time, which when the people went overseas, they said that the flu jumped overseas and got them over there, which is funny. And then you go back, you're going to the 1700s and 1750s, 1800s and 1850s, and they're just sticking the smallpox vaccine into people, and they're talking about how smallpox is spreading all over. So I started to realize that this has been deliberately going on for the last 175 years. I don't believe that even history really exists before that. That's a whole nother rabbit hole. But it really has been going on for a very
Nah.
long period of time.